there's 3 departments left in general government.
Well, that's the budget. Oh, I thought it was.
No budget.
Welcome. We call this October 25th meeting of the AMATS Policy Committee order. The time is 1:34. We'll start with roll call. Mr. Peterson. Present. Mr. Weldon.
Here.
Mr. Schutte.
Present.
Ms. Heil.
Here.
All right, we have quorum. Craig is not here, so Aaron, will you please do the public involvement announcement for us?
Certainly. Hello, everyone. I'm Aaron. I'm filling in for Craig. So AMATS committee meetings are open to the public, and the public is encouraged to comment. Business items are presented by the staff or consultants. After the committee discusses the business items, the public will be given an opportunity to provide comment.
Thank you.
The agenda.
Do we have approval of the agenda?
Move to approve.
Second.
Do we have any changes?
Like the tax.
Agenda is approved. We have before us the minutes of the September 20th, 2018 for approval. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Are there any objections? Hearing none, the September 20th meetings are approved. Meeting minutes are approved. Thank you. Moving on to Agenda 5A, Safety Performance Measures Target. Aaron.
Sounds good. Okay, so this is something that everyone has seen before. This is in relation to the FHWA performance measures that are required as part of MAP 21 and carried over into the FAST Act. The MPO is required to either adopt their own targets or support the state targets. So the safety performance measures have been seen before. It's different from the other measures because it's an annual process that has to be gone through. The others are 2 or 4 year targets that can be set. So before you is the 2019 targets. The state has set their 2019 targets when they submitted the HSIP and HSIP plan and the highway safety plan for 2018. So you have 2 memos. The first is 5A. This actually talks about the targets that AMATS, and the recommendation that's coming from AMATS staff and the TAC. And the second memo is from the Department of Transportation that actually talks about what their targets are for 2019. So AMATS staff and the Technical Advisory Committee are recommending supporting the state DOT safety targets for 2019.
Any questions or comments from the committee?
I had a question.
Yes, sir, Mr. Weldon.
So I saw these at the TAC too, but so this is statewide, and we adopt them. So we would presumably in our scoring and so on have these, but we have to shrink them down to the AMATS area somehow.
So when the MPO supports the targets, they have to reflect in their TIP and their MTP what projects are going to help support the targets that they have shown in here. So we don't necessarily have to reflect these down and say, okay, our area is this. That's only if the MPO elects to select its own targets.
So we have a project and we say we expect this to decrease fatalities by 1 every 5 years, and that helps meet their goal.
To be honest, I'm not sure how we're going to show it exactly. We're still working on that to get it incorporated into the TIP this go around. More than likely, all we're going to show is that this is meeting this particular target, or this project is helping to meet these X number of targets. I don't know if we'll say it is expected to reduce the number of fatalities or serious injuries by a certain amount per year or not.
Can I follow up on that?
Yes, sir.
So, well, that's an interesting comment then. So you say you're still trying to figure out how we'll get this integrated into the TIP, but this isn't new. They've done these for you. How have you done it previously?
We haven't had to do it previously
Oh, how come?
because we've just now started updating the TIP. So if you had a TIP or MTP that was in place when the federal performance measure requirement came out, you didn't have to update it. Because we're going through a new update, we have to go through it.
This is because of the new federal rule.
Yes. And we didn't do the 18s because the TIP at the time was not
Okay.
being updated.
Good. Thanks.
Any other comments from the committee?
Why, yes. And this is a comment that staff has addressed in the past, but I'd like to ask it again so that they can let everyone know. John and Pete in particular, you're aware of the municipality of Anchorage's commitment to Vision Zero and the policy objectives of Vision Zero. And so when we received this initially, we were not entirely convinced that attaching our jurisdiction to the statewide criteria was the right approach. And we were having internal discussion as to whether or not accepting the targets on a statewide level for our jurisdiction conflicted with the Vision Zero goals. And I think there's more to that discussion and debate. The question that we asked Aaron, and Aaron helped us find the answer to, was, is this the right time or right opportunity to have that discussion? And I'll paraphrase you, but you could probably answer it in greater length. He said no, because this will come back again next year, that we'll be able to dedicate more time and energy to figuring out how, if it would be possible to adopt our own. But I just wanted to put that out there because I know the two of you in particular have a lot of concerns about non-motorized safety. And it's one that we take near and dear. And so initially we were reluctant to accept this, but I think that there's a good point in the fact that we have to do it again, so we'll have another swing at it.
So to paraphrase, if we actually hit zero in our Vision Zero, then DOT will have to work harder to meet these fatalities elsewhere in the state.
Morbid way to put it, but sure. Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Any other comments? Any comments from the public? What is the will of the committee?
You actually
I'm
got me.
sorry.
You got one.
You know, I want
Yes.
to say one thing.
Please state your name.
Cheryl Richardson. When I saw these documents at the Technical Advisory Committee, I did wish for all these goal-setting documents for trends. If we could have some background information as to what's come before in terms of actual fatalities and injuries. It'd be nice to have a running trend presented while we are setting future numbers, goals. And that's all.
Yes, sir, Mr. Miller.
Maybe it's partly a general thing, but when we look at these, it may be in your report or somewhere, say, what did the tax say?
Yes, it says down in the action.
Oh, you have it down in-
Yeah, it says
okay.
AMATS staff and the TSA are recommending supporting the state's targets.
Okay, this isn't exactly what we got at the tax, so, okay, that's good, that's important, thanks. So I would move to, we accept, is that what we do? We approve them? Okay.
Second.
Are there any objections? Hearing none, the motion is approved. Moving on to agenda item 5B, travel time reliability measure target. Aaron?
Okay, so this is the second of the FHWA performance measures. So this is travel time reliability. This is thinking of how long does it take for me to get from one place to the next, and can I rely on that every time I get into my, in this case, vehicle to get from one place to the next. So the states have set their target. State of Alaska DOT has set its targets, and now it's up to the MPO to decide if they want to support those targets or set their own targets. So again, you have two things. The first being AMATS's memo, and the second is actually a memo from DOT that talks about it and actually shows some additional factors that can affect reliability that are more, that the sheet's there to help you think about additional things you may not come up with on your own. So it's a pretty good read to go through. Right now, staff and the TAC are recommending that AMATS support the travel time reliability targets for 2018 to 2021. Please note that this is not like the safety targets. This is a 4-year period. So if the body moves to support the state's targets, it will do so for 4 years before it comes back around again. And so you see a 2-year target and a 4-year target. The reason for that is because the state has a requirement to reassess the targets after 2 years and determine if they need to make any adjustments to it. And so what happens is if the state makes adjustments to it, the MPO is automatically brought along to accept those adjustments.
Thank you, Aaron. Mr. Wilton?
Is this like old system-wide for AMATS or each particular road?
This will be for interstate, non-interstate NHS, and then interstate for the freight travel time. So it's not on all roads, it's just interstate or non-interstate NHS. And so this will be all those roads statewide.
92%.
Yes, sir, Ms. Shruti?
Just a follow-up to that, why is the 2-year target on the non-interstate not available?
They're not required to do it for the non-interstate at a 2-year.
Oh, okay, okay.
It's only the interstate at a 2-year.
All right, any other comments from the committee? Very good. Any comments from the public? Seeing none, what is the will of the committee?
Move to approve?
I'll second that.
Are there any objections?
Objections?
Hearing none, the motion is approved. Moving on to agenda item 5C, pavement bridge measurement target. Aaron, once again?
This is the third of the FHWA performance. This one's pretty self-explanatory. Pavement bridge condition. So there's a bunch of them. I'll go through them really quickly. So there's poor or good condition on the interstate, poor or good condition on the NHS that's not part of the interstate, and then there's poor or good condition on the bridges that are on the NHS. So again, this is a 2-year, 4-year target where it's really 4-year for the MPO, but the state can reassess after 2 years and make adjustments as needed. So the AMATS staff and the Technical Advisory Committee are recommending that AMATS support DOT and their targets for pavement and bridge. For this one especially, the majority of the work is done by DOT itself. AMATS does not historically spend its funding on the NHS facilities in the AMATS area.
Thank you, Aaron. Any questions from the committee? Yes, sir, Mr. Wilson?
Just so I understand the definitions, so looking at this chart, poor pavement condition on the interstate, 2-year target 10%. So that means we'd accept 10% of the pavement being in poor condition, 90%. Then you measure thickness and things like that.
Yes, that's correct.
Is that realistic? I mean, does a rut from studded tires count as poor?
Yeah.
They're all over the place. I mean, how can you look at the Glen Highway? The Seward Highway's good now, but it was just paved last year, wasn't it, 2 years ago? Is 10% realistic? For at least my experience, it's not.
For the statewide targets, yeah, I mean, these are, we do have a Alaska exemption. The lower 48 are actually even higher. And so with our exemption, we feel that 90% good pavement is, we're above that already, and so maintaining that is reasonable.
Statewide.
Yeah.
And you'll actually see some information that, as Ms. Richardson was talking about, on the second page you have that has the DOT, there's actually some information in the back that shows kind of the trends that have been happening over the years.
So go to this guy and then
So it'll be on the second page, and you can actually see kind of where the state is at on interstate and non-interstate NHS, and then the bridge as well.
Yes, sir.
Just another question. Is it a binary choice? Is it either poor or good?
Yeah, I mean, the FHWA regulations, the federal regulations have pretty specific what they want to see as part of their performance measure reporting. So yes, I believe there might be fair as well, but the only requirements they have is poor and good.
Okay. And fair covers, it looks like fair covers are pretty broad.
Yeah. But it looks like, I guess I should say, in my opinion, as staff who's read the regulations, it looks like they're only interested in the high or the low.
Sure. And the rest of it just gets by.
Yep.
Any other comments by the committee? Seeing none. Any comments from the public? Seeing none. What is the will of the committee?
Move to approve. Second.
Are there any objections? Seeing none, the motion carries. Agenda item 5D, congestion mitigation air quality measure target. Again, Aaron.
Okay, so this is the last of the FHWA performance measures that are required. This has to deal with congestion mitigation, air quality, and the emissions reductions. So these targets are specific for areas within the MPO where there's a non-attainment or maintenance area. So for AMATS, there's only Anchorage has a CO for maintenance, and Eagle River has a PM10 for maintenance. So if you actually look at the federal regulations, it has a bunch of different, it has 2 more, 2.5, and NOx. but AMATS does not have any maintenance area for that, so it's not part of the targets that you see here in the memo before you. So this one is a little different than the others because AMATS actually produces this data as part of the requirements for the CMAQ funding that they receive and gives this data to the state. So it's a little bit of a different scenario than the other ones where AMATS is providing the data to the state and then AMATS has to decide whether they're setting their own targets or supporting the state. I know it's a little backwards, but for now, staff and the Technical Advisory Committee are recommending that AMATS supports the state in their CMAQ targets. And just so you know, to be in all fairness, you will probably see this again in another year or two because there's a second set of targets that the MPO is required to deal with, and it deals with travel time, non-single occupancy vehicle travel time, and the reduction towards emissions. So the requirements in the federal regulations didn't have it start right away. It waited 2 years before any metropolitan planning organization that's 200,000 or greater has to take a look at that and set a target for it. The state is actually not required to set a target for that, so it's kind of the MPO on its own. So that's a really good opportunity for us, AMATS, to take a look at setting its own target and what it wants to do, how it collects the data, what is the reporting requirements, and everything like that.
Thank you, Aaron. Questions or comments for the committee? Mr. Walton?
So this CO at least applies to Anchorage. Is there anything here that, what happens if we were not to meet that? I mean, is this, or so should we be very careful here? We can make this a bigger number so we know we meet it?
It's pretty disastrous if we don't meet it. Right now, we do not have to do any modeling, air quality modeling as part of our transportation, our TIP or our MTP. Air quality modeling is very specific that you have a budget for it, and I know Ms. Howell might be able to explain more. I'm kind of learning on some of this. And so if we have, correct me if I'm wrong, 2 exceedances, more than 2 exceedances in a year, we are no longer in the limited maintenance plan that we are in right now. And so that would have,
It's the second one of them.
so what they have is they have a 20-year period that you do. It's 2 10-year periods that you can't have any exceedances. And right now for CO, we are in the last 10-year, 2 or 3 years left, I think.
Yeah, something like maybe 5, maybe.
And then Eagle River's PM10, I believe.
The second 10-year plan is due in 2021.
Okay.
We're hoping to do that in 2020. So, and all it tells, once we finish the 20-year plans, we can redo another one for attainment. And if we want to try to reduce some of our control measures. But there was a memo that's come out from EPA that says the only thing you get out of doing after your second 10 years is no more conformity at all, but you're still required to keep all your measures in place. So these targets versus our SIP and our air quality, I think are a little different. So I think the targets are to just continue to show reductions to offset your population growth, but the monitors and the SIP are not a problem because our CO numbers are very low. And we're still staying low enough to meet the limited maintenance plan requirements, so we don't have to do the modeling. Whereas Eagle River, we have issues with Eagle River when we have big dust storms. So, or we fail to do the treatment, the surface treatments that we do to make sure there's no reentrainment of road dust. And they've come extremely close to losing our limited maintenance plan in the Eagle River area. So it's very, very important that the municipality continues to do mag chloride in the spring and the fall during those transitional periods to keep us out of the non-tame area problems. I mean, messing up our limited maintenance plan. And then within Anchorage, we're very, very close sometimes to, for PM10, exceeding the PM10 standard if we don't do the mag chloride to keep the road dust down. So the only reason we didn't go into non-attainment was the property owner told the building that they had to shut down the monitor on the day we probably would have violated and had a formal thing. So So they moved the monitor, so the monitor does read, it's on the same road, so it's very, very important to keep doing the mag chloride as a preventative measure.
This is your.
So I think the gist of these targets, though, is to keep offsetting population and increase VMT to show that you're still be able to maintain your emissions from that perspective. So I don't think it's a problem to go do what the state's recommending right now, even though we're collecting it. And might want to look at it more when we have to redo it in a year. And whatnot.
So to summarize, we can meet these goals in Anchorage?
I think they're already, yeah,
Okay.
I believe that's,
Okay, you mentioned in Anchorage, we could exceed our PM10 and get in trouble, but I mean, this says here CO is for Anchorage.
right, these are
PM10
formal designations. Okay, so these, even though we're borderlining on PM10 right now, until EPA until we have violations, EPA redesignates us from attainment to non-attainment. We don't have to worry about PM10 for this.
All right, good, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Heil and Aaron. Any other questions from the committee? Seeing none, any comments from the public?
I
Yes.
just have a question. Would a reinstatement of the emissions testing that we used to have to do on the vehicles solve any of this problem? Or help?
No, not, because two different pollutants.
I can't hear well
Oh, I'm
enough back
sorry,
here.
it's two different.
Right, so I didn't know which one you were talking about. I just knew that
The
pollution
INM
and air
program
quality
was
issue.
focused on carbon monoxide, and it can help reduce PM 2.5.
Right.
But the problems that Anchorage has with PM10 is road dust, reentrainment when they laid down the gravel to help with the slippery roads, and they don't have a chance to pick it up or wash it because it's still freezing.
Right.
So they're using mag chloride as a dust palliative during those shoulder seasons when it's freezing and thawing and it's very slippery, so you can't really use real water, just regular water, because it'd be a problem.
Sorry, can you please state your name for the
Carol
record?
Ramsey?
Thank you.
Sorry.
Yes, sir.
Just to follow up, to build off of that, particularly on the particulate matter, it's an area that is of deep concern for the municipality from a road maintenance perspective, but also beyond that. One of the other contributors to that is private maintenance of roadways and parking lots, et cetera. And so code enforcement plays a role in that too. And occasionally you will see late night illicit sweepings, that's what I'll call them, where I would recommend if you see a lot of dust coming up from a large parking area and you're wondering, is that good for the air? Called in.
Okay.
And just one other thing is, occasionally Anchorage does start bumping up against the PM 2.5 standard, which is 35 micrograms per cubic meter, and that's from wood smoke. So they've gotten into the 30s. Luckily, the standard is a 3-year rolling average, and so we could have a high year, but luckily we've had the preceding and the after years have been lower and have gotten the 3-year averages down. But we've gotten up to 32, 33.
You found that more from forest fire or
No,
from
no, no, that's
local people and burning
wintertime.
fireplaces?
Wintertime,
Fireplaces.
fireplaces, and wood stoves. Yep.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments from the public?
Thank you.
Seeing none, what is the will of the committee?
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Any objections? Hearing none, the motion is approved. Moving on, agenda 5E, the 2019 to 2022 Transportation Improvement Program. Public hearing draft. Aaron, please.
Okay, so this is the TIP. This is the 4-year funding program for AMATS. Everyone's seen this before. It came to the committee last month, but was tabled until this month because there were some comments that had been inadvertently missed. Those were added into the comment response summary, and as far as we can tell, and an additional comment period was held where 57 comments were provided on the tip. So that's all included in the large, this one here is the comment response summary. Everyone sees. Any comment that has an N next to it is new from the last time that this was brought before the committee. Let's see, there is one other thing I was made aware of today. Carolyn Ramsey let me know that a comment was submitted from Senator Bill Wielechowski and Representative Ivy. Thank you. I can't find any evidence it was actually submitted through the regular process to the amatsinfo.gov or Craig's email address. So I'm not sure about that one, but just to remind everyone, this is the public hearing draft. It will be available for additional comment should people need before it comes back to the committee.
Okay, any questions or comments from the committee?
Yes, sir. Thank you for coding an N next to new comments. I was just trying to quickly find one. Can you point one out so I can see where that is identified?
Oh, certainly. The first one, green, N10 on page 3. Just in the comment number, it'll say N.
Oh,
N.
that's where the N goes. Thank you.
Sorry. I should have made it bigger. Sorry.
So I'll talk a little bit about this before we get too much further down the road here. As you can see, the electronic version and the paper version are both color coordinated, divided by color it is. We have 51 comments in the green that all the comments, staff has already gone through them, and the technical advisory committee have agreed that there is no action needed. And so if we could agree on that, we could move on to the.
What's that?
We need a paper.
Yeah, I'm not, I don't know.
I'm sorry, which one?
The green color.
Oh, you're looking at this.
Yeah, issue response.
All right, got that.
We're not on this yet. You want to say it again?
Yeah, so there's 51 comments on the updated version of the old comments plus the new comments that are highlighted in green. And on all of those comments, there are staff recommendations and technical advisory committee that say no action needed. The majority of these are just acknowledging that we received your comments and thank you for your comment, and no actions are required. If we can agree to that, we can vote on not taking any action other than the recommended no action needed by on the green ones.
Question on that.
Yes, sir.
I got this at the TAC, is it different from what we're looking at here?
If you have the one from the TAC, then it wouldn't have the TAC's response to the new comments in there.
Yeah, I wrote it.
I can.
No, I wrote it
Okay.
down. But the numbering and all.
It should still be the same. There may have been one changed around. It was a comment from Mark Butler that was put into the green and it should have been into the yellow. And so we moved it around when we noticed the error.
And number 27 is the same way. It should be in the blue and not the green. It's on the front page.
Number 27.
Yeah.
From Sharon Stocker.
How about Umed?
Yeah.
Wow.
I wasn't there.
The follow-up.
Yes, sir.
So, and where does this fall in? This is on our desk.
Oh, that is a version of the tip that has the TAC recommendations in there, so you can see it. The chair asked for versions of those documents so the committee could look at them while they're working on what to do. So we provided you guys a comment today.
So this was reviewed by the TAC, they had comments, those went into here.
Yes, and are also in here, so everyone can read them.
Well, I might make a suggestion, we just work from this.
That's just what I said.
I do want to let you know, the problem is that hasn't been provided to the public. I didn't have enough time to be able to do it before
It
posting,
hasn't
so.
been released to the public, that's the point.
Yeah, so, just in case anyone asks.
Well, maybe, so we released this to the public before, we had a draft that went to the public, then this becomes final to be released to the public?
No, that is still a draft version. So what was posted was the actual official release to the public version, the public hearing draft. Those changes that are reflected in there haven't been approved or disapproved by the policy committee yet. They're just for illustration to show what it would look like if the changes were approved.
Okay, so if we go through here and we amend it or accept the changes from the TAC, then this document goes where?
That would be whatever changes are accepted or rejected would be incorporated into a final version, and it would be made the new public hearing version that would be released to the assembly for them to review.
And so the assembly reviews it and sends comments in, it's that, but that's, so the public, general public's done that, except for perhaps a public hearing at the assembly.
They can still provide comment during that time if they want to attend the assembly and do the public hearing, public testimony, I guess is what the assembly calls it. I'm not sure how public comment works sending it in. We don't technically open up a comment period again.
Okay, so assembly comments come back to here, and then,
They'd go back to the, so they'd come back to staff. Staff would organize them into a comment response summary, and then would bring it to the TAC for them, for their comments, and then back to you, to this body.
good, thank you.
Would the members please speak up? It's hard to hear you.
Can you move closer? I'll try.
You want to move up the table?
All right, any other comments by the committee?
Thanks for pointing that out, John. I was working off the old draft. I gotta transfer all my notes.
Any comments from the public? Yes, sir.
Mark Butler. So I just want to make sure that my comment that shows in green on the front page, number 52, about my interest in splitting off the intersection on Spenard Road in Minnesota from the Spenard Road project, that is included in the yellow now. Is that what your staff is saying?
Yes, it's on page 20.
Okay, so it has been moved.
It has, yes.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the public?
Are you going by blue section, green
Green,
section?
we're in the green section.
Okay.
Well,
There wasn't any clarity how this was kind of running.
sure. Do we need a motion to,
No, not yet, because you're still on.
no, I mean to not do this and work off of this?
No, it's just how you say how you want.
Oh. Well, okay.
How about I make a
I think you should.
recommendation? How about I make a recommendation?
Well, I guess I'll say this, similar to the TAC, I will leave it up to the will of the committee to decide how we go through either the comments or the actual tip.
So just for clarification, this tip incorporates everything from here, right?
That was a recommended action for change, yes.
Okay, including the yellow?
Yes,
Okay,
it's most
so-
of the yellow.
So I think what needs to happen is, it would be nice if you could go over the highest controversial projects so that we know whether or not we want to keep them in to go to the assembly or take them out before it goes to the assembly and have that action.
Okay, so do you want me to kind of run through everything in the comment response summary and just briefly talk about each section, or the tip version itself?
That's how I'd recommend it. It would just go through the tip section.
Can I offer perhaps an alternative?
Oh, yeah,
Might
yeah,
be the
this
same
just
thing.
ideas.
And just, is there some way these can be printed out or provided to people here?
Can they be printed out?
Can you do a lickety split?
No.
Well, are they over there?
There's a stack over here.
Oh, they
The
are.
version that was posted to the agenda is provided.
Oh, it is, oh, I'm sorry, I thought they didn't have it, okay. There's only 11 or 12 red items, and the red items are tax recommended changes. We can just go through these one at a time. If people only have this, they could go find it over here, it's not just red.
We can easily point out what section it falls in, because it's a pretty easy, the green won't have any actions at all, the blue will be Umed specific, and then the yellow will be the majority of the comments that you see in the tip.
Okay.
So you said the same thing, but clearly.
Differently.
Can we just go through this document one at a time?
That's what I would recommend.
And we're back.
All right.
So the thing, for procedural purposes, is I think we can't make any edits until we open it. But once we open it, we can't take public comment. So, once we make, correct? Yeah, so we can have discussions over the whole thing and just have you go through every stuff, have a discussion, then open it for public comment, close public comment, and then go and make motions to accept or not accept the TAC recommendations. That would be the cleanest way to do it.
Can we go one at a
We need to-
time? Like we look at RDUI 403, Spinard Road Rehab, open it to public comment, we discuss, move on, then go one at a time. Because most of these will have just no comment, and some will have one or
Just we have to
two.
make sure we know what we're doing.
But does that work? That meets the requirement?
It would, I think it would, but it's just not, it just gets a little more cumbersome.
You'd rather take comments on everything, and then we go.
That's typically
That
what,
would be the typical procedure.
but whatever you guys want to do. I'm just reminding everybody that we need to careful on procedurally how we handle
Right.
it.
Good, appreciate that.
I think,
I guess I could go either way. I'd almost ask the public.
Yeah,
which way they want
we have
to
an
go.
hour and 20 minutes.
yeah.
Well, John, for clarification, that's what we're going to do. We're going to open this up for public discussion on that item. Okay. So for clarification, for all you in the audience, what we've decided to do is using the TIP document, go through and open this TIP document up for public discussion. So any comments or questions you have on the TIP document, there are copies over there on the table. Go ahead and we'll hear public testimony on any of the questions you have on this document.
Don't you think we should give a presentation on each of those projects?
Right. I just want to let them know which document we're working on.
Okay.
And I will list where they are in the comment response summary for those in the audience following along and don't have the red outlined version. So, okay, I'll start kind of briefly talking about them. The first one is dealing with Spinard Road Rehab, Benson, Minnesota Drive. There's a number of comments in the comment response summary in the yellow section. It's comment number 52. It's comment N12, N53, and N56 that deal with this edit. The edit, the recommendation from the public is to split out this project because right now in the description includes the Spinard Road and 36th Avenue couplet, and there's some concern from the public that this is not something to advance right now. So the TAC took a look at it and made a recommendation to remove the language that say include Spinard Road, 36th Avenue couplet, and to add that this project would include non-motorized improvements.
Or is it would add includes, you delete stuff?
They would add it in.
Anything that's not
Anything
written
that's,
out.
anything that has a strike through,
Yeah, that is good, that goes away.
Is delete.
in The next sentence.
Right, okay. That's it, yeah.
because it previously did not have the last sentence, this project would include non-motorized, so during the discussion with TAC and based on comment from the public, it was recommended to add that in.
My question was the cost of the project adjusted for that addition?
The cost that's currently reflected in the tip will stay the same regardless of that addition or not.
Okay. Now your choice. You can open it for public comment on this edit or not.
Do it.
I was just going to this with John.
Yeah.
Well, I'd
So,
let the chair decide if you want to do them all at once or one by one.
I think it'll be really confusing if we try to do it all at once.
Okay, one by one's fine.
Procedurally, it's going to be tough. Okay. So, are there any public comments on the proposed edits to the Spinard Road rehab? Yes, sir.
Mark Butler. So I'm looking at this document. I don't see any changes in red that would indicate these changes are made. On all the other ones, I see significant red, either red additioning or not. So the changes you mentioned, they don't seem to be reflected in this document, or am I reading it incorrectly?
Mark, what's the date on the top left corner of your?
It says 10/18/18.
You have an old draft.
That's what's provided.
So, Aaron, you want to explain that again?
Yeah, so what was posted, sorry, let me stop the timer. What was posted is not the one in red that the committee is looking at because they have not been approved yet. What was posted was the previous public hearing draft that was given to the policy committee at the last policy committee meeting, because it was never approved and it was tabled until this meeting.
So in other words, we're in blind over here, besides the words you're saying. It doesn't seem to make sense.
That's why I'm listing in the comment response summary where you can find the comments that relate to this one.
Right, but the actual writing of the redlining of that isn't indicated on anything we can look at. So, okay, back to this. So my public comment is, besides that, which doesn't seem to make sense, is that my comment and the comment of the major landowner in that area, Coconut Housing, is to split, besides taking out the couplet, is to split the intersection project, which is truly a highway intersection, from the 30th to 36th road renovation project. Both their comments and mine were to split that, and that doesn't seem to be reflected here in the comments that was just made. Not only take out the coupling of the couplet, but rather do that project separate and to do the 30th through 36th renovation, similar to what we just did on the northern part.
Yes,
I don't see your comment.
it's a.
I guess one thing I would start out, so I think if we read to them what we have here, so I'll read what the TAC recommended wording is. And on any of these, it's not extensive, so just take a moment. But the TAC recommends that this read, Spenard Road rehab, Benson Boulevard to Minnesota Drive, project will rehabilitate to improve traffic flow. This project would also include non-motorized improvements. So that's what we've had recommended for the TAC. So Mark, a question to you. Why is it important, briefly, to separate the main, to split this in, to not only decouple the couplet, but also to split the...
The intersection from 36th to Minnesota on Spenard Road has been very controversial of how that will be treated. Will it be an overpass, underpass? Will it be this couplet? What exactly will happen on that? I don't see any possible way that in the next 5 or 10 years we're going to get the kind of people working together on this, that landowners and users that would agree to how it should be. But the 30th to 36th chunk that needs to be done, I think we will have almost complete public approval, landowner approval, and so forth. So it seems to me, through the 30th to 36th, the bike non-motorized additions and so forth, and then at a later time, second priority is fix that intersection in some way, but that could be major purchases of land. It could be it's very controversial. So 30th to 36th, continue what has happened very successfully on the north end, and then the southern end. Do the intersection later. So if the words that you say mean no improvements to the intersection, just Spenard Road is being improved all the way down to there, then that's satisfactory to me. But if it does mean we're going to work on the redesign of the intersection, and the redesign of the 6 blocks of the road, then I think we won't in our lifetimes, public lifetimes, see that project completed. The last one took 22 years, as you well know.
So, can I have a comment?
Yes.
So the tip is the next 4 years, and I would think that couplet is being addressed in the MTP.
What to do in that area is being looked at, but it hasn't been decided yet.
Right, so just for clarification, this is a short-term plan, not the long-term plan? So,
If he's trying to make
Can
this
I
a
ask
quick
a follow-up
project.
to the
Yes, sir.
commenter? Mark, just to clarify, I finally found your comment. You include the area between Minnesota and 36th as being pulled off for consideration too, which seems counterintuitive to me given what's happening on that stretch. Would you suggest then that language explicitly removing the Minnesota-Spenard intersection, but not specifying that stretch between 36th and the intersection would be acceptable?
It would be to me. We have the president of the council, of Spenard Council over here.
Just
as
your
well.
comment.
Yes, my comment is yes, that's fine.
Thank you.
Previously, that was all tied together into the intersection. So removing the intersection, just doing the road all the way down to Minnesota would be fabulous.
John, Mr. Wellington.
Question, clarification maybe from Aaron then, because this does say Benson Boulevard to Minnesota, but the project that just finished went down to 32nd, right?
Yes.
So it's already passed here, so it's, I mean, we wouldn't want to redo that. Maybe should this be 32nd to Minnesota Drive intersection?
What you would do in the project for clarification is you look a little generally beyond the start of a project, so you can make sure whatever you're building on ties in with whatever is done. So they won't go through and pull up, but they'll say, okay, the transition will look smooth between the two projects by including that in there.
Promise me they won't tear up.
I cannot promise that, no.
Seen it.
So there is, we can modify the scope, correct? And we can amend the scope to say,
Can we let your other public testimony first?
On this
are we
particular,
done talking about?
no?
No, we'll hit
There
it.
was one person on that.
Yeah, I'm sure there's others who'd like to comment.
Any other public comment on the Spinard Road? Yes, sir.
Please remember you have 3 minutes. I'll time you, sorry.
I'm the first person to get the time limitation.
I forgot.
Thank you, Aaron.
I'll stop until you start.
Good afternoon. Jay Stange, Spinard Community Council. I want to say, first of all, on RDY 0003, thank you to the Technical Advisory Committee for its recommendation to remove the couplet language. As far as I can tell, the only stakeholder that has an interest in pursuing the couplet project is DOT. There is no support in my community as far as I'm aware. We haven't seen a presentation from DOT or from other stakeholders about the current state of planning for the couplet project. My understanding is that the intent is to move 3 lanes of one-way traffic that's northbound on Minnesota directly onto Spinard Road, and to create a one-way couplet section in there, which I think isolates the properties that are inside and also competes with the community's desire to have a Main Street feel on Spinard Road. For 20 years, we discussed whether Spinard Road is the destination or whether it's the way you get there. And I think that ultimately we decided in our community that Spinard Road is the destination. It's a retail Main Street style section, and we would like to see that respected. We think dumping traffic that's coming 50 miles an hour off of Minnesota Boulevard is not an appropriate and compatible use for our community efforts. And in addition to that, AMATS has already embarked upon the Spinard Corridor Plan, which is an excellent opportunity to not only support transit development in our region and in our area, but also encompasses a section between 36th and Minnesota Boulevard where Chugach Way comes off. And there are upcoming discussions, upcoming studies, and upcoming negotiations that speak to the future uses in that area. And so we think that it's premature right now to see policy discussion at this committee level put a bunch of traffic onto Spinard Road without this other public process, which AMATS already supports being followed through. So I urge the policy committee to accept the technical advisory committee's recommendation to remove the couplet language and with all due respect to also remove any budgetary momentum for that. I've been hearing sort of off the record discussions about intent for spending in that area from DOT that I don't support. So that's my comment on the Spinard Road couplet. Thanks. If you have any questions, I'm here. Do I have any more time left, Aaron?
23 seconds.
Okay. Go Red Sox.
Good man.
You're not one.
Any questions? All right. Any other questions by the public on Spinard Road? Yes, sir.
Carolyn Ramsey, I second Mark. Didn't even need a start timer for that.
That was too quick for me. I was not ready.
All right. Any other comments by the committee? I'm sorry, by the public for the Spinard Road? All right, seeing none, it's open for discussion with the committee.
What's the will of the committee?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to move to approve the redlined language, which I'll read, but adding the following sentence at the end that says, "This project shall not include improvements to the intersection of Minnesota Boulevard and Spinard Road." Period.
How about for ADA requirements? Doing a rehab, is that, I mean, just be careful about how you.
Sorry, can staff interject? I think to get to where the public is talking about, the best bet is just change the termini of the project, Benson to 36th or before if you want. Because if you include the Minnesota portion, it will have to be looked at for ADA improvements as well, and it'll kind of make things difficult on what to do in that location.
What's the street right before Minnesota?
is your east or west? Is Chugach Way?
No.
Or-
There's one further.
Right next to Center Bowl, guys. What's the?
McCain Circle.
McCain Circle. Okay, I will amend my motion. I'll strike that last sentence idea and instead move to change the description, the project scope, which is in brackets, for those of you following along at home. I will leave Benson Boulevard, but I will strike Minnesota Drive, and I will insert, one more time, Jay?
McCain Circle.
McCain Circle.
McCain Loop.
McCain Loop.
either loop or circle.
Loop. Thank you for looking that up. I guess I could do that.
You know, I can recommend an amendment.
Well, let him finish first.
I'm done. I'm done.
Yeah, but did you get what he was?
It's just changing from instead of Benson Boulevard to Minnesota Drive, it's Benson Boulevard to McCain Loop. And in addition to the recommendeds from the TAC.
Correct.
Right. Maybe this is a question. We have an intersection of Birch and Abbott. And when they defined the project, they said it would go to Birch, phase 2 of Abbott. A big problem at that intersection is you can't see up the hill because you've got this wall. And if they'd have said 20 feet past there as part of this project, we could have fixed a significant risk point. But we can't because it was defined. So does it make sense in this case, based on my experience, Benson Boulevard to 20 feet past the intersection of McCrae, whatever, this loop? I mean, is that necessary?
So the Abbott Road is looking at the Birch as part of the Phase 2 project.
But they only go to Birch.
But his problem is they didn't go past Birch.
And
He's
so they
worried
can't
about
do that.
going to through the intersection of McCain.
That's because there's another follow-on project.
Well, we don't know. No, phase 2 it only goes to Birch. I don't know where one that goes from Birch to Hillside yet.
I thought, okay, sorry.
Would be a phase.
I thought Phase 2.
Let's look at the loop and
Let's see
the
what-
intersection on Spenard and see, is there a problem? John, do you see a problem between this McCain loop and the intersection? That short little thing, is there problems that need to be
Yes.
updated?
Yes.
Okay,
On the north side of the road.
okay.
Yeah. That, I mean, for the benefit of the group, that was my interest and intent in explicitly removing intersection improvements. I didn't think about ADA, so thanks for reminding me, but that stretch of road, if you walk or bike it, you know how bad those sidewalks on both sides of the streets are until you get to Minnesota. So I don't want to leave out, a stretch between Alaska Leather and the car dealership and beyond where there are multiple problems that could be addressed in this project. If there's flexibility, and I'm looking to the DOT staff or Aaron, if there's flexibility in implementation, even though we're saying McCain Loop, they can actually do the next 35 feet, that's fine. But if saying McCain Loop will create this hard barrier that John has described on the hillside, then I would like to figure out what's the exact language to include that stretch of road and pedestrian facilities up to the point where we don't have to do major improvements to the intersection.
So up to the intersection, maybe.
I thought that's what I said.
I mean, you'd want to be very clear. I guess that would mean reverting the termini back to Minnesota Drive and then inserting language saying not making improvements to the intersection, aside from ADA requirements.
Okay.
Or would it be just up to Minnesota without touching Minnesota intersection?
I don't know if you could.
I don't think you can do that. I think when the feds look at it, they'll say, you're close enough to this, you need to look at ADA improvements at least. But I don't
It's the
know.
curb and gutters right there on,
Yeah.
I mean, what you want to do is you want to fix the curb and gutters right there, that whole thing. So that means you have to do improvements on the intersection. So you just go to Minnesota.
Question then, for Aaron or for you. In that instance, let's say that we approve that language and our goal is to improve Spenard Road, but now that we've touched the Minnesota intersection, there are requirements to upgrade ADA accessibility. Is it only on that eastern side of the intersection, or is it all four corners of the intersection? I know how we implement it in the city, which would be just the west side, because that's what we touched.
Yeah, I think it's just the side that you touch. But what we should probably do is get clarification from DOT regarding that.
So put the intent language in,
Yeah,
and then it can keep moving, and then it can be fixed before the final tip is approved, is what I would recommend.
So-
what is our wording?
So I was just gonna say, so we have a friendly amendment, or we gonna reword this?
Okay,
So I think for ease of use and for the people following along, I think what I would do, and Aaron, tell me if I'm doing this wrong, is I would actually rescind my original motion and make a fresh, clean one, so we can start over.
I think you can do, you just have to vote on, I think you have to vote on the original amendment and then it gets denied, or can you actually rescind it all after it's been seconded?
As long as it's seconded.
John, you need to.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. I think you just rescind it.
Great, I just did.
Sounds good.
Okay, I would like to make a new motion. All right. Move to approve tip need ID RDY 0003 as recommended by the TAC. I would like to amend the description, though, to add the following sentence. Shall not include, help me against the shall not include improvements to the Minnesota intersection beyond ADA requirements.
On the east.
On the east side of the intersection. So shall not include the Minnesota intersection except any ADA improvements required on the east side of the intersection.
Second. One down.
All right.
Okay, that hard, sorry.
Any objections to?
No, he's got a comment.
Oh, sorry.
Just a question, so you will send this wording to FWA and say, hey, does this work? And if they say no, can we change it at the assembly so it works for them?
Probably send it forward to DOT, Jim Amundsen, Wolfgang, whoever. I'll work with Todd on that.
Okay,
And-
I wrote it down, I'll take it
Yeah.
back to the department and have them confirm that this is allowable.
Okay, but then that would be things, so if we got it bobbled here, we have.
We have plenty
Fix
of
it later.
times to fix it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Good.
Okay, call for the,
All right,
you have to,
yep, recite. All right, so we have an amendment, we have a motion on the table to accept the Spenard Road rehabilitation project, which reads Benson Boulevard to McRae, to Minnesota, but shall not include improvements to Minnesota intersections beyond the east, or to the east of the intersection.
You want to read it back?
yeah, you didn't get it quite right.
Hang on, can you read it back?
What I have written is, the new language is shall not include improvements to the Minnesota intersection except ADA requirements on the east side.
All of those in favor?
All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes.
Number 4.
Hopefully it'll
Okay,
faster.
number 2.
Follow-up questions on that? Sorry, hang
Go
on,
ahead,
sorry,
sorry.
I had a note. So does the scoring on these, is that relevant now, or
No.
that was only relevant to put them on this piece of paper, right? The scoring doesn't matter, okay. Thanks.
Okay, next one, for those in the audience, is comment number 5 in the yellow section. Jerry Hansen, PM&E, provided this comment, and it relates to Academy Vanguard Drive area traffic circulation improvements. It's RDY 0004 in the tip. Jerry Hansen submitted a comment asking for changes to the funding that was shown in the tip for this. The tip showed $1 million in 2022. And Jerry Hansen's comment recommended that it instead shift around to have $500,000 for the environmental document in 2019, $5 million for right-of-way in 2020, and $6.5 for construction in 2022, to hopefully have this project line up with the DOT Seward Highway project that is going on.
My copy has the whole thing crossed out.
My whole thing is.
I'm sorry, I'm getting to that.
He's getting.
I don't know.
Getting to that. The TAC had the discussion about this, and in the discussion, it was recommended that this project be removed from the tip because it was not federally funded to begin with, and federalizing it would require it to start over again, and it would not be able to meet up with the DOT project that's happening right now. Sorry, I was trying to get a brief history, so for everyone.
All right, any comments from the committee.
Do you want my 15-minute lecture on this project?
No.
No.
Okay.
Does he have anything new?
It's a little more passionate every time.
Thank you, John. Any comments from the public on the potential removal of 92nd Avenue extension?
No. Academy.
Academy. Oh, it's crossed out.
It's RDY0004 if you're following along.
Academy Drive Vanguard, any questions from the public on the Academy Vanguard Drive? Seeing none, what is the will of the committee?
Move to accept or approve, what are we accepting these or?
Yeah, accept.
Approved.
Accepting?
Either accepting or approved.
So we're accepting to delete this?
Yes.
The project will be us on our bonds, city bonds, instead of this.
Oh, okay.
So would you vote?
Federal money.
I move to accept.
Now, second.
Okay, there we go.
Sorry, who seconded?
I did.
Shoot.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All righty.
There, all right, I'm sorry, the motion is approved. Next one, Aaron, 92nd.
So this is RDY 0006, 92nd Avenue Extension. The comment originally is dealing with number 13 in the yellow section on the comment response summary from Brian Lindemood. This project was originally put in and scored high enough. Unfortunately, staff didn't have some information about the topographical issues that exist along this corridor because there's multiple railroad lines, one pretty high in the air, the other pretty low, plus there's a power transmission line. And so to do this project, there was concern by the TAC that it would not be feasible. So the recommendation from the TAC is instead turn this into a study to determine what issues there are in the area and maybe how best can be addressed. So that was added on table 4 as the 92nd Avenue Reconnaissance Study for $250,000 in 2021.
Move to accept. What are we gonna do public? Sorry.
All right. Any comments from the public on the 92nd Avenue extension? Seeing none, what is the will of the committee?
Move to approve the TAC recommendation of removal of 92nd Avenue extension and make it a study
We got that.
on the other table. Just we'll get a twofer on that one.
Table 4.
Table 4,
It's PLN 0006.
yes. So, my motion is to move to approve to removal of it as a road project and add it as a study.
Oh, that explains a lot. Second. Thank you.
All those in favor? All right.
Aye.
All right. Aaron, next item, please.
The next item is RDY 00010, the Northern Access to Umed District. Just a quick update or background. This project was in the short term of the 2035 interim MTP, and as such is required to be scored and ranked. It's scored high enough to be included in the TIP, which is why you see it here in front of you. There has been a number of comments on it, and those are all the comments in the blue section on your comment response summary. I'm not going to go through all of them. The Technical Advisory Committee made a recommendation to remove a portion of the description. It says a 0.5 mile 4-lane facility with non-motorized facilities, and then add in, project will complete a transportation demand management study.
All right, any comments by the committee? Any comments from the public? Yes. Please state your name.
My name is Paige Coatney, Coatney. It actually has to do with the scoring. So at 2 Tech Advisory meeting, AMATS TAC stated that the Umed Road project would not be removed from the TIP because it had scored high enough to be included. But checking the TIP tables, it appears that a few other projects scored higher and were not included in the TIP. For example, MTP 118 Lake Otis Parkway, Northern Lights Boulevard to DeBar, earned 39 points. MTP 109 Jewel Lake, Diamond to International, 37 points. Eagle River CBD study, 35 points. Eagle River traffic mitigation, 34 points. So the statement that the Umed Road could not be removed from the tip due to scoring high is not accurate. So for more information, please look at comments N34. And as for scoring at the September TAC meeting, I asked the board how they came up with the scores, as it appeared they listed sums not mathematically available from their own scoring system, and I was informed that the scoring system, the scoring method was subjective. Projects were provided to different departments, and those departments scored based on what they thought projects should be scored. The numbers from each department was then averaged to provide a final number. I was informed that there were no standards to score roads, and again, it was a very subjective process. This is road engineering. Okay, so I'm concerned that it's considered so subjective. Even when they're provided 5 pages of criteria. Now, I spent 12 years in social work, a field considered very subjective. However, over 20 states, including Alaska, are able to conduct evidence-based, non-subjective methods in order to determine which families need intervention, how to provide the intervention, and how to determine if returning children is safe. It's called structured decision-making. AMATS and other transportation agencies should be held to similar standards of using a system that can objectively assess needs, devise possibilities to meet those needs, and implement plans based on proven standards. So I used the definitions outlined in TIP scoring table and compared mine to AMATS, and I rounded up to 20. So in my 3 minutes of testimony, I cannot present to you my arguments in each of the 14 categories on why the scoring appears so skewed in favor of using public funds to build a road on UAA land so the university can profit from the real estate access. But to be clear, this project should not have left technical. The scoring was not public, timely, understandable, nor objective. And with lack of explanation, it appears that this is bad math at best and dubious at worst. So now here in the planning committee, you hear again, like you heard 4 years ago, remove this project from the TIP and the MTP.
Any other comments from the public?
My name is Kimberly Mahoney. I'm the currently the Associate Vice Chancellor for Facilities and Campus Services at the University of Alaska Anchorage. And I'd like to thank you for your testimony, the public. There's been lots of comments to date on this project. I want to thank the committee for having a second round of review opportunity for public comments as well. My comments today are specific to, in my capacity, I'm concerned about safety of students and employees on our campus. And right now, there's a lot of traffic from the north coming directly through UAA Drive. And that's a primary interest for me because of the non-motorized traffic that crosses UAA Drive. We also programmatically at UAA have increased our programs for high school students to campus as part of the middle college program. So we also have younger students arriving to campus. That was a program that was just implemented this fall. Simultaneously, we have seen in recent years, even since the study and evaluation of traffic demand from 4 years ago, there's been a tremendous amount of growth at Alaska Native Medical Center, Hospital Campus, South Central Foundation. And just my general concern that increased development has, in my opinion, increased the traffic from the north through UAA Drive, making the problem worse. And so I'm in favor of the Umed Northern Extension project because it would provide safer access around the heart of campus. I also would like to note future projects that are planned in the area. I think the municipality is starting to break ground on the major Tudor Road project, which is in the vicinity of Umed, starting at Elmore and going west. And that's a major development. That's a shopping center, that's housing, that's a brand new municipal health building for employees. So in consideration of all of that, I'm in support of the tax demand or recommendation for taking another look at the traffic demand study, getting better data, getting more current data, looking at the future things that are coming up for construction. And my last point is that I'm supportive of this project as part of the federal TIP because it will allow a more comprehensive public process. I don't think that the project had as much, as it has a robust opportunity then as it does now for environmental studies, proper environmental studies, and public input to make a better facility. Thank you.
Can I ask her a question? Thanks. And thank you for being in the front row so it's recorded better. We record these, right? Okay, a lot of times it's hard if you're talking from the back to here. So there are suggestions in front of us to change this not to construction, but to the transportation demand management without construction. And with the transportation demand management, they look at all different ways of dealing with your safety issues on campus, getting from here to there, everything. Also construction would be a possibility, but all those other things, the tools that we have. And typically if you do that, you look at it, if you make some of those changes without construction, you want to wait a few years and see how did these work. Okay, so you would delay this thing 4 or 5 years maybe after changes were made. So it could be a few years down the road. So if we were to make that change, see how that works. Maybe you get where you need to be without building this road. And if you don't, then in a future TIP, this is a 4-year TIP, so 1.5 from now, we say, okay, those things didn't work. The Tudor Elmore development went in, and I don't think that would increase traffic on UA Drive, but but perhaps it would. Then you would do it. So it would delay this a bit. Is that okay?
It's my recommendation that we should look at it to see what it's doing right now, including the study. But if it could include construction, or ultimately if the results of that prove that maybe we should delay, I think I'm open to that. But I think also that since I've been at UAA, I've seen how that road backs up at UAA Drive, and so I guess anything that would help take that pressure off would be helpful to UAA.
Can I ask one follow-up? Do you know what is that traffic? Is that student traffic or UAA?
My opinion,
People going to UAA.
I think the traffic demand study would ferret that out. What I see is it's through traffic. Mostly it's people going to Providence or people going to the Native Hospital.
Thanks.
All right, any other comments from the public? Yes.
Yes, my name is Barbara Carl, K-A-R-L, and what the committee, the recommendations are, suggests putting the cart before the horse. The executive summary of the Umed district plan has 7 priorities. The first one has been completed. The second priority is a transportation demand management feasibility study. That's for the whole Umed area. That has not been completed. Not only that, but my memory is that Page and Turnbull and recommendation recommended a traffic demand management study, feasibility study. What we have now would have both the construction and the management study, which makes no sense to have a suggestion when you haven't had the study completed. And as Mr. Weddleton suggested, that there may be better alternatives, but we won't know until we do the study. And so I strongly encourage you to remove the language as it is now and change it to be requirement for a transportation demand management plan feasibility study for the entire area as required in the Umed district plan that has been adopted. My understanding is that such a study could run between 1.5 to 2 million, but no more than that. And with that, we might find less expensive ways than a new unneeded road. I have one question on these charts. There's this little AC arrow, and I don't know what that means. And just out of curiosity, I'd like an explanation of that.
AC stands for terminology used in funding called advanced construct, meaning that we would take money in future years and apply it forward to fund the project.
I would suggest that any money left over after a TDM study be reallocated to, say, Spenard or some other worthy project. Thank you.
Yes.
I'm Robin Beebe, and I have a comment on the Umed Northern Access Plan. I really appreciated the comment of, sorry, I can't remember your name, but the facilities person. And I think a really good point that it feels like the elephant in the room. I've been following this project pretty carefully for about the last 4 or 5 years. And I read the traffic studies that were done. And what this project does, it's not northern access to the university. It's not a little neighborhood street that goes in. It's connecting Lower Hillside to the Glen Highway. And that is a big reason you're hearing all of this opposition to. If you read the traffic study, what it says is that cut-through traffic, not people going to the university or people going to Providence, but people going between the Lower Hillside and the Glen Highway or the other direction, would actually cause just an incredible amount of congestion there. The only way that this original project got through and showed any time savings is that the traffic studies assume both highway to highway was complete and that the Lake Otis to Glen extension was complete. That it's in the traffic study that was conducted by Dowell. No, as far as I know, no later traffic study has been done that shows that that's different. And one of the big concerns we have about this project is that you're pulling this traffic, not just to Umed and Providence, but you're pulling a lot of cut-through traffic that doesn't need to be there. And that's where a lot of other concerns about safety come. I really appreciate that there's concerns about safety at UAA Drive. I personally think there should be a grade separated crossing there, more than just the Sky Bridge. But you're moving the safety problem to the East High intersection. You're moving the safety problem to North Burgaw Street, where the Russian Jack School is. And no one has actually answered the question of what you do with that congestion on North Burgaw when we're not seeing highway to highway complete anytime soon. And we're not seeing Lake Otis to Glen anytime soon. What are you doing with that congestion? That congestion takes away any time savings that this project, as proposed, would deliver. And so it takes away safety improvements. It takes away improved travel time. I mean, it's a solution to a problem that doesn't solve it because it's being done in the wrong order. And it makes me want to just bang my head against the wall that it keeps coming up when this question has not been answered yet. It is a technical problem. I'm a little bit following what this lady said about, I'm sorry to say that, Paige, I'm sorry. What Paige said about, social work has a better process for more quantitative. Well, we have a quantitative process for engineering roads, and it feels like a big part of that has been ignored. Thank you.
Anybody else from the public? Comment on Umed? Yes.
My name's Diana Evans. I had comments prepared similar to Robin Beebe's, but I just wanted to add a couple things. The track record of the last project team regarding the safety concerns expressed by the public was unresponsive. So if you keep construction funding in this project as a line item, we have no assurances that the public would have any avenue to get their concerns resolved. The second thing is, what I like about the transportation demand management study is it could be a win-win solution. TDM could free up district lands in the core by shrinking the need for vehicle parking lots for single occupancy vehicles. And these lands could provide institutions with more room to grow and generate income without moving north into the district natural lands. And also the Spinard gentleman's comment with the Minnesota Drive, he's trying to fix a canyon. Well, you guys are trying to put a canyon through the Umed district that we'll have to come back and fix in later years. So I really want you to delete the project and remove the construction money and stick with the TDM study. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public to discuss the Umed? Yes.
I guess I should stand up. So before you start that timer, this is a caveat to UAA. I'm going to bring up stuff. I've been on the front lines of this from the get-go. So please don't take
It was
offense.
the other guy.
Yeah, I understand that, but I just kind of wanted to give that caveat. Now I'm not taking direct whacks, even though I kind of am. So, but I want to apologize ahead of time. My name is Carolyn Ramsey, and as I said, I have been on the front lines of this project from the get-go. And I'm requesting that the funding for the Umed Northern Access Road and the project be removed from the TIP. Past traffic studies show heavier traffic for less than 1 hour in the morning and again in the evening. This is not about public safety via access to an emergency room. There's another perfectly good 250-bed hospital a mile to the north that can deal with any and all emergency situations just fine. There's no supporting evidence that this road is needed for emergency access out of the district. There's 2 4-lane roads and 6 2-lane roads leading out of the district, providing significant redundancy in evacuation routes. In the event of a large earthquake, this road would buckle and become unusable. It's what happens when you try and float a road on 60-plus feet of peat. Building this road would be a large financial impact on the municipality. The previous project predictions were that the road would need to be fully resurfaced within the first 5 to 8 years due to heaving and buckling. The municipality would also have to come up with funding for increasing flood mitigation that will be needed downstream due to the deconstruction of the wetland that's a valuable part of the Chester Creek watershed. UAA has stated that they engage in responsible land development and strong value of maintaining green spaces. I know this was her predecessor, but when we went through this last time, we were told by UAA that for every tree taken down, one was planted. But yet on continual further pushing of that, it was admitted finally that, yeah, the other trees planted on a campus in, I don't know, Kenai or Southeast Alaska, not here in Anchorage where we need them. The university is seeking federal and state funds to access and then municipal funds to maintain and access their lands for future development. Funding a transportation demand management study would be the most responsible method in moving Anchorage forward to sustainable infrastructure. It's UAA's claim that there's too much traffic and congestion along UAA Drive and Providence Drive. A TDMS would look at these issues. Providence Hospital claims that they need to get patients to the hospital faster. TDMS would look at this issue. The Page and Turnbull letter dated October 28, 2013 says a Umed TDM should be fully funded and completed with the results of that study taking precedent. The Umed district plan states on page 3 that we already talked about, the road's not the priority, the TDM is the second thing and something to be done. The bottom line is the Umed Northern Access Road needs to be deleted from the TIP. Public opposition with upwards of 100 folks have submitted comments in writing and in person against this project. Less than 5 years ago, many UAA APU professors and students signed a petition against this project. Universities all across the U.S. use TDM in their districts. We do not need to reinvent the wheel when something out there already works. I got one more thing for you that you might like. Another line item to add after this, if you so choose, would be funds of your choosing, maybe $5 million or less, to help fund and get the TDM started once the TDMS has been done. Because I would really hate to see the waste of money having a full TDMS done, and we have it, but then there's no money to start implementing those changes. So it would be great to see those changes implemented so everybody's going forward. I'm done, thank you.
All right, any more comments from the public on UMed?
So I'm Ryan Buckholt. I'm the interim director for environmental health and safety at UAA. And I just wanted, from my perspective, in addition to that role, I'm also on the campus incident management team. And one of the issues I really have around just the traffic coming down UAA Drive, TDMS may solve it, definitely open to that. But there's only two access points in and out of our East Campus. One is Alumni Drive on UAA Drive. The sheer amount of traffic comes down frequently creates either actual vehicular accidents or just a tremendous amount of near misses. I'm frequently in meetings with our university police department chief, and we are trying to talk about what we can do specifically on our road that accesses the municipal road, UAA Drive, to mitigate that. But really, without reducing the traffic in some form, it's kind of hard to do that. The other access point is on the other end of Alumni Drive at Providence Drive, where we get a lot of cross-flow traffic from folks leaving the Providence Hospital campus. That's also where all our housing students walk through to get from our residential campus to our library and the rest of the campus. Recent transit project helped to improve some of the pedestrian movement through that area, but really didn't go far enough. It was also a transit project, so I don't blame them. But there's just a tremendous amount of kind of pedestrian and vehicular conflict in this area that needs to be solved. I think, I came up in the university. Public universities were pretty common for doing studies. I get it. The last road didn't have very much of the public process or planning to go into it. I support the tax recommendations because it requires doing a study before we do work. It removes a specific reference that you must build a 4-lane road. The last road that UAA helped to kind of hone down was a 2-lane road with pedestrian amenities and traffic calming features. I get it, some parts of the project kind of went haywire on that, but at least that's where we were. We were trying to come up with something that really helped meet some of the safety requirements that we have, concerns that the community have. And I think a new process that fits what the TAC recommended really kind of helps get us further into that. What are the options we could do? If it's a road, all right. If there's other options that meet these safety improvements, great, let's do them. So I definitely encourage the TAC's recommendation on this one.
Additional comments from the public? Seeing none, what is the will of the committee?
Move to approve RDY 00010 as drafted by the TAC with the following amendments. I wrote them down ahead of time so I can recite them back clearly. First one's easy. Simply delete the phrase construct north access to university-medical district. Then the TAC, for those of you that are following along, the TAC deleted the next portion of that, which reads a 0.5-mile 4-lane facility with non-motorized facilities. That's deleted. And then the sentence that they added is project will complete a transportation demand management study, to which I would like to append the following phrase: evaluating the transportation demands of northern access to the university and throughout the entire university medical district, period. I can repeat it if you need that, Lori.
Added project.
Sure, let me read it again.
Added project completes.
Wait, say that again, Lori, what do you need?
Added project completes a TDM card.
Right, so it now reads, project will complete a transportation demand management, parentheses TDM, study, and it has a period, but I'm saying strike the period and insert evaluating the transportation demands of northern access to the university and throughout the entire university medical district, period. Additionally, as part of this very lengthy motion, I move that the funding in years 2021, 2022, and I'm confused about 2023, be placed at 0. Which I will look for staff on clarification. I believe that leaves only 1.5 for funding the TDM in 2019. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Very lengthy motion.
Second,
Thanks, Pete.
Yes, Mr. I might have an amendment. I do, I have an amendment. I mean, I like it, but it's, I would like to propose, I'm not sure grammatically, we have a lengthy sentence if we do this.
Could you please speak up?
Okay, right. Adding on to what Mr. Schutte added, at the end, something of the sort, though Aaron could make it grammatical, and provide funding for possible recommendations. And further amend his so that we would have $2.5 million in 2019, $4.6 million in 2021, and then the other funding to remain as shown, and I would get rid of the AC.
Can you repeat those numbers again?
2.5 in 19, 4.6 in 21, so I moved $1 million earlier. Then leave 22 and 23 the same.
Leave them the same or strike them?
Same.
So leave 2022 as 6.3 million or get rid of it?
I would leave 22 and 23 the same.
As 0 or is in the funding?
Yeah.
As shown. Oh, not 0. I'm sorry, leave it as, he struck it and I said, don't strike it, leave it in there.
So you would leave the 6.3 allocated for 2022?
Yes. And I'm happy to speak to this.
Please do.
One, as we heard recommendation here, leave some funding to do the stuff that TDM study might recommend. Oh, I'm sorry, and I have an additional thing. Sorry. You had some wording in there that you said study northern access, and then you also say access to the entire area. I would delete northern access and just say access to the entire area. It would shorten it and get the same place. It gets that lightning rod gone.
Okay, let me see. If you're suggesting that, John, the sentence would read, project will complete a transportation demand management study evaluating the transportation demands throughout the entire University Medical District.
That's your goal.
I will accept that friendly amendment only.
Okay. Then another point on adding funding for possible recommendations is, were this study to say, this is something going back to the TAC, that someone, I think Wolfgang might have said, that if you don't tie this to a potential construction, I know that frightens some people, then the work would have to be redone to do the NEPA for a road, where some kind of road, somewhere, somehow, to be recommended as part of it. And assuming he's correct, I'm hoping this wording would let us use this TDM study for any future construction. Is that, you were the professionals, Han?
Well, I mean.
Do you remember him saying that?
I wasn't at that meeting, so I do not. But if you were going to anticipate construction, you would have, yes, you would have to do some type of document prior to that.
So maybe what you do is you use the wording at the end, says, and the funding in the out years to implement the results of the TDM study. So it's not really predicating anything particularly to a road or not, but you're identifying that the money is to go towards implementing the TDM study results. So it's clear what you're putting the money out there for.
That's my concern.
Provide funding for possible recommendations and the funding, and that's my goal. And if you do a TDM study, it could be, maybe it says the only way to solve this is to bust a new road through Elmore. It's possible. Or it could be, do what Ms. Beebe said and say, put this money to Lake Otis or something like that. So, so we, to leave open the door without having to redo the study to implement what the study says, I think is important. And that's why I don't want to zero it out, if I can help it.
Okay.
But I have a real jumbled mess here. Is there a poet amongst
But
us?
I know
Trying not to
that
do
we'll
that.
probably need, if it's just, no, if you have construction money, we can leave it in the table 3, or will the whole thing need to be moved into table 4?
Well, I mean, if you,
Or you put the study goes in a different
we
table.
probably would put something, my recommendation would be put the study in table 4, so it's clear that's doing it, and then you can have something similar to RDY 00011, the Seward Highway to Glen Highway Connection PEL design. You can have something similar to that, the implementation of the TDM study, and put some money in for design construction if you want.
So moving it to table 4 can get the end result that John's talking about.
Well, you'd split it.
You'd have to split it,
You'd have
yeah.
you have a new project in table 4, and you'd rename the project
Okay.
in table 3.
So table 3, those of you following along, what that would mean is in table 3, there would be a project. Table 3 is the one we're on right now. I'm sorry, table 2. Table 2 is the one we're on right now. There would be a project in there that would have this title, and it would have funding associated with it, but the verbiage describing what that money would be spent on would refer to the TDM study that we're talking about, whether it's John's proposed language or something fancier. Then funding, the project to fund and do the TDM would show up in a different table, table 4, which is planning projects, right? Those are all, we're gonna plan to do X, Y, or Z. So it would split this into 2 different phases, but it would still exist in table 2 in some form.
But it would be renamed to be implementation of transportation demand study of the University Medical District transportation demand study kind of thing. You
With
wouldn't
your
even,
knowledge.
you wouldn't even have northern access in it anymore.
Yeah. Did you, so the TDM is the table 4.
Yes.
Right, okay.
And the implementation
Stays here.
would stay in table 2.
Stays in.
And then you would name it implementation of the transportation demand study of the Umed district. And he would not have any northern access lingo. And then you'd put the $2.5 million in 2019 in table 4. And you would just leave the reductions you proposed in table 2. So that would be how you do it.
That, functionally, that's what it would look like to our parliamentarian, Lori or Aaron, jump in. To accomplish that, can we do all of that right now on this item, like including inserting new things in other tables, or do we have to wait till we get to the table 4 discussion to do the insertion?
You might as well do it all.
Okay.
Do it all
Oh,
in one.
we did the 2 for before.
Yeah.
We should just do
Okay.
it. So you want to start all over?
Yeah, I don't, but I guess I will.
Yeah.
This is very confusing. Okay, well, I've done it once, I'll rescind another motion. And start all over, if I may.
Well, I just want to make sure you do it right the first time.
Yeah, well, me too. Okay.
Can you do a second to rescind it?
This is Pete,
Yeah, you can, I'll undo my second.
thank you.
And John's, you need to rescind yours.
I'll rescind mine.
Yeah, everybody.
No one seconded mine, did they?
No.
You don't have to
Oh, well.
reference.
Yeah. That's true. Okay, let's take another stab at this, shall we? Sorry, guys, this is how sausage is made sometimes.
Part 2.
All right, I move to approve RDY 00010. There might be an extra 0 in there, sorry. With the following, I'd like to strike all of the existing language and insert brand new,
Rename it.
fresh language. So first, Lori, the project name shall now be Transportation Demand Management Projects in University Medical District.
Implementation.
What are you doing, table 4?
I'll get there in the description.
Okay.
I'm just doing the title.
Ah.
So that's the title only, that's the part that's in bold, if you're following along. And then for the description, it shall read, funding for implementation of, we have to reference the specific project.
They can add that.
Funding for the implementation of whatever the project number is that we come up with in table 4 for the TDM. The Transportation Demand Management Study of the University Medical District. Does that work for you?
Yeah, that's great.
You want a second?
Yeah.
A second.
Add the money.
Oh, hang on. Let's just start there.
We'll go ahead and add them.
You okay with that? Okay, and I will amend my amendment to change the dollar figures in the fiscal programming to 2.5 in year 2019.
But that's not for
No,
here.
no, no, no,
That goes
no.
No,
to
I'm sorry.
Table 4 part.
What, show me your other ones.
Well, this would be.
To zero out in 2019, 0 in 2019, 0 in 2020, 4.6 in 2021, and 6.394 in 2022. And do we have to, question before I finish my motion, do we have to delete the AC funding portion, or will it go away because we're now changing everything else?
I'd recommend, as part of the motion, delete it.
As part of my motion, I'd like to delete the advanced construct and the 23.810 million in 2023.
Thank you.
Now, second that.
Second.
There we go. So you need to make the second motion.
Well, don't we want to discuss and act on this one?
Okay.
Yeah?
Okay.
Chairman, I'm looking at you.
Yes. All right, so here we are, we have the motion, we have comments proposed, comments paid. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. I have a second motion. No, you didn't count on that. All right, my second motion is in table 4, we get to it. In table 4, I would like to add a row, add a project. Don't know what the tip need ID will be, but staff will tell us later.
It's PLN 0008.
And they just did. I would like to add tip need project PLN 0008. Title of the project is the University Medical District Transportation Demand Management Study. And the description shall read, project will complete a transportation demand management study evaluating the transportation demands throughout the University Medical District and funding future projects. Period.
With 2.5
In column, for I guess fiscal year 2019, I'd like to insert 2.5 million, and the rest will stay at 0.
Second.
Sorry, can you read the last of your project description to me after throughout the University Medical District?
And funding future projects.
Thank you.
With 2.5 in 2019.
Okay, yeah, 2.5 million. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Did somebody second that?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Sorry.
Just make sure.
I'm rocking them.
Handwritten and we maybe clarify. There was a.
Yeah, sorry, do you guys want
I
clarification?
would just like to add, can we add the entire University Medical and add the word entire in there so nobody gets skipped?
I thought it was in there. Evaluating the transportation demands throughout the entire University Medical
Okay,
District.
I heard it, okay. The other wording, I did not hear entire, and I just wanted to
Oh,
make sure.
I'm sorry, I might have dropped it, but I wrote it down.
Okay. Thank you. Happy.
That was hard.
Can I get a quick clarification? Because I understand there's different tables, 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 2 and 4. If the TDM actually says that there's some safety improvements that would be great, such as pedestrian crossings and things like that, that aren't actually vehicular, can you still have that under table 2? Or would that have to be in a different table?
No, I think it's just
So
table 2.
If the money is there in table 2, and it comes out that the study has all these other things, then what would happen is they would just move it to the right spot. Or
Okay.
they amend, I mean, the trick is to putting in a placeholder, that's the key, and that's what's just happened.
All right, I wasn't sure if
Once
it
the,
was on
once the
table.
study is done, because you don't know what's gonna happen, then they'll make a little adjustment.
Okay, excellent, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
you guys ready for the next one?
I don't know, I'm tired
Can I
now.
have a question, kind of question? If we can't get done by 3:30, are we going to extend the meeting today, or are we going to extend the meeting to another day?
I will stay till we're
I
done.
would like to stay this time.
Is the staff
Five more, I would-
pretty behind on getting this in place and we're already losing?
I just, I mean, for the
Months.
people,
I'd like to
it
get it
just,
done.
okay. Do we have the room?
Oh, that's a good question.
We're good.
Let me check the calendar on the room and see if we have anyone.
Yeah, there was nothing underneath it.
So we're moving to table 3 then?
Well,
Well, we're
usually,
still on number
so
2.
usually
No.
what we have to do is we have to vote to extend. Okay,
Do we
so
need
just
to
let
do
you
it
know
now?
that.
Let's
Okay, there's a
verify.
YAC meeting at 5:30, so we
We are not going that late.
I hope we don't. If we want to extend the meeting, we'll need a motion to do so.
Could we extend up to 30 minutes?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I
Aye.
had it at 30, but I'll.
We're all.
Sorry, yeah.
The motion is approved. All right, moving on to the next project. Aaron, could you talk to us about Lake Hill Drive?
Yes, we are in table 3 now, the non-motorized table. Lake Hill Drive and 10th Avenue are pretty similar, related, so I'll kind of address both really quickly. These are related to the Stephanie Mormillo comments in the yellow section, number 6 and number 7 on the comment response summary. Lake Hill Drive is actually out in Eagle River, and Stephanie Mormillo had some concerns that this is a rural local road that already has a shared, that functions as a shared road and has an existing separated multi-use trail. And if we convert this to a shared use roadway with no connections past the old Glen Highway, there's concerns about safety. So her recommendation, and the TAC concurred with this, is to remove this project from the tip. And then I'll get to 10th Avenue when we get to it.
Mr. Shute.
Thanks. Just a clarifying question. Now that we've moved on to table 3, any discussion of items in other tables, specifically table 2, since we've moved on, are not an option?
That is up to the committee.
Okay, I just want to make sure there's not like a formal process.
I think when we get done with making adjustments, we should probably move the entire thing out for public, you know, when we release it. So at that point, if there's any last minute tweaks, we can probably take it at that point.
Thank you.
All right, where are we at? So we got a vote, okay. Any comments from the committee on Lake Hill Drive? Any comments from the public on removing Lake Hill Drive? Seeing none, what is the will of the committee?
Move to approve the TAC's recommendation of removal of non-motorized project 0004, Lake Hill Drive.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Aaron, 10th Avenue Pathway.
So this project, when it's scored and ranked high enough to be included in, but staff did not realize that the north fork of the, north fork of the south branch of Chester Creek lies within this right-of-way. And so if this project were to be done, it would have to be, it'd be very complicated with federal funds. So the recommendation from the TAC is to remove this 10th Avenue pathway from the tip. Oh, it relates to comment number 7 in the comment response summary. Sorry.
Thank you, Aaron.
Just a question.
Yes, sir.
For staff, is this on the east or west side of Muldoon?
This would be on the east side of Muldoon.
Okay, thanks, Pete.
When we looked at this, we thought there was right-of-way along there and that it would connect, but we didn't realize it was the creek. So, whoops, we found that out.
Additional comments from the committee? No. Comments from the public on removing the 10th Avenue pathway? Seeing none, What is the will of the committee?
Move to approve the TAC recommendation to delete project NMO 0005 10th Avenue pathway.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. That looks like all for table 3. Moving on to table 4.
Oh, the additional red on the table 3, please ignore. I just didn't remove the red before
Yeah.
making this copy, so.
All right. Table 4, Aaron talked to us about Chugash Way.
So this is in relation to comment number 15 in the yellow section provided by Michelle McNulty. She asked that the Chugach Way area transportation element study be included for $150,000 into 2019 of the TIP. There was discussion at the TAC, and the TAC concurred with this and made the recommendation to add this project in.
Thank you, Aaron. Comments from the committee? Yes, sir?
So is this a $150,000 to study a study?
My understanding is that there is the Chugach Way small area plan underway or going to be underway, and this is to fund the transportation element of that plan.
I can answer that. There is no Chugach Way small area plan yet, but this would be a component of that.
Can we put it all in there? Or can only, because the rest won't be related to transportation?
That's exactly it.
Land use and transportation like this.
Well, they're adjacent in this case. We need funding. So.
Thank you.
Additional comments from the committee?
Just one, if I may.
Yes, sir.
The discussion between Assemblymember Weddleton and I was talking about whether or not the Chugach Way area, which many of you who are from Spenard are familiar with, whether that should be dealt with in a small area plan project, or if we can do it the way that's been proposed, which is look at the road through this lens, through the AMATS lens, and then deal with the Chugach Way land use questions and issues through the small area plan. That's the recommended action we're taking today. It's one that I'm very supportive of, and so I encourage people to support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments from the public on Chugash Way? Yes, sir.
Yeah, hi, Jay Stange, Spenard Community Council. The area that is in question with this item has to do with a lot of different elements. There are a couple of major private property developments that are in design stage right now. There is a need for safety improvements on Chugach Way. There's a Spenard corridor plan that's underway, and I feel like this is an appropriate expenditure to incorporate all of the future planning for the Spenard corridor plan, for Spenard Road rehabilitation, and also for potential design modifications that might come from the Muni with regards to planning and zoning changes and special considerations for this project area. So we think it's going to help tie the project together, and in Spenard we support this expenditure.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public? Seeing none, what is the will of the committee?
Move to accept the tax recommendation.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Aaron, 92nd Avenue.
Who seconded on that last one? Sorry.
Pete and I tied, so take your pick.
Sorry.
I wrote down
Those are two.
Weddleton and Peterson.
Okay, so the next one is the 92nd Avenue Extension Reconnaissance Study. This was already covered under the motion for Table 2, where you removed that project and added it into Table 4, so you can move on.
Sweet.
The next one is PLN 0007. This deals with Port of Alaska Multimodal Improvement Study. This comes from Brian Lenude, and it relates to comment number 12 in the comment response summary under the yellow section. Brian Lenude had some concerns that the current C Street Ocean Dock Road project that's on Table 2 doesn't do enough to help with some of the traffic congestion concerns or the conflicts that exist between the railroad and freight in the Port of Alaska area. So the recommendation that came from The committee was for staff to develop a study to take a look at that area and make recommendations on how to improve the Ocean Dock Road connection to the Port of Alaska. So this is staff's attempt at meeting that request on PLN 0007 for $250,000 in 2019.
Thank you, Aaron. Comments from the committee? Seeing none. Comments from the public for Port of Alaska Multimodal Improvement Study? Seeing none. What is the will of the committee?
Move to accept TAC recommendation of adding Port of Alaska multimodal improvements study.
Second.
My time is up.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, I'm sorry.
The motion carries.
So before I go too much further, I do want to point out there are a number of comments that are addressed by the changes in the tip because they were recommendations not to move forward with the comments based on the technical advisory committee. So I don't know how you want to handle those or not.
I'll handle one now, unless you want to jump. So we can add a project, right? Yeah. Okay.
Was it out for public comment? Or is this brand new?
It is, comes from a public comment. More than one. I do have a question too, and just to make sure. So project G, at the very top of table 2, which is O'Malley, that's on there because of the A/C, right?
Grandfather.
It's, the G means grandfathered, so it's a project that's been design and environmental right-of-way funding, and it needs the construction funding. So it's grandfathered, it's carried over into the next tip automatically because of that.
Right, okay,
So you'll see a number of them with G next to it, and the non-motorized and others.
because I mean, that talks about phase 1, which is done. But that's okay. So we did get, there was quite a bit of discussion about the South Addition Community Council wanted study for a complete street study, and this was discussed at the time. And I don't think it's a bad idea. I think there was a question though, is there such a thing as a complete street study? I mean, you know, the TDM study, I guess, is well defined, but is there, so if I make a motion to add a project for a complete street study for A, C, I, and L streets, does that have meaning in the business?
So can we ask staff for clarification?
Someone
on
who
this?
knows.
I mean, you could study whatever you would like, but the issue is that AMATS has not approved its complete streets policy. So having a study in there before that's done, we don't know what that would look like. In addition, please don't take this the wrong way when I say it also is dependent upon the owners of the road. So you can throw money into the tip for it, but as DOT owns those roads, it's up to them if they would want to move forward with those studies or not.
Well, maybe. I mean, we could study anything we want, and then we get our recommendations, and they can say no. But I think we should be able to study it without any permission.
Because how the funding works, all the funding still goes through DOT, even though it's AMATS funding.
I'll just add, if I may, to that, DOT constantly reminds folks that using our NEPA process, we meet all of the minimum requirements for complete streets. So we kind of incorporate a complete streets process through our NEPA process whenever we're doing projects.
What is your, so if we don't have a complete streets policy, what is your, you have one, but it's not an AMATS.
It's not called complete streets, it's our NEPA process that we have to go through for spending federal money on our projects. And it incorporates all of the pieces of that complete streets wants us to look at.
Comes down from the feds, guidelines from the feds?
Yes. The NEPA process, yes. Yes, sir.
So what I was going to suggest is, given the sequence that we've described from staff, it probably, much to the chagrin of South Addition Community Council who's in the room, it probably makes more sense to focus time and energy on adopting an actual complete streets policy, which I think is very important for South Addition. What is the policy? What does it look like? How will we determine what is a complete street and what isn't first before we throw money at studying a particular corridor? It pushes it out potentially to the next funding cycle, which is not exciting to South Addition, I understand, but just conceptually, we heard it earlier in the conversations about the northern access. A lot of people felt like you put the cart before the horse in that process. This kind of rings the same for me. Don't get me wrong, I'm completely in supportive of complete streets, but I think we're a little bit out of sequence on this one. Okay.
No, and if I could add, I know they're doing, the area plan is in, so the question to Cheryl Richardson sitting in the back. The area plan is in progress, is that correct?
Neighborhood plan.
Neighborhood plan. And for the tape recorder, Cheryl nodded yes. Okay, I withdraw.
So that was actually one of the comments not addressed in the TIF. It's comment N32.
Does
So,
the public get a chance to
in the yellow one.
Can we do that? Cheryl?
32.
Sir?
We saw it.
So I'm not sure how the committee wants to progress.
I'm sorry, which comment again?
N32 in the yellow section.
Oh.
It's on page 23.
Are you talking about all of the rest of the yellow or all of the ones?
The yellow. The rest, there's a number of yellow ones that haven't been gone through or talked about. The biggest one is N32 relating to the complete streets. The rest of them are changes being made that come from the Port of Alaska, that come from the Public Transportation Department that are being made but haven't been officially addressed as part of this body.
That doesn't make sense. How's it being made?
So the TAC is recommending that the changes are made.
And in which fashion?
So, for example, the Port of Alaska one is to update the information in the tables in the back regarding the Port of Alaska.
Oh.
I think they call it the Port Modernization Project. So that's what I'm saying is that some of them have not been addressed in going over this document, that I don't know if you want to go back through and look at each of those that are in the comment response
I just
summary.
got it. I just understood. Okay.
So do you know which ones those are?
Yes, I can walk us through very quickly. So the first one is comment number 8 in the yellow section, page 20. This is Steve Rebuffo with the Port of Alaska is asking to update the Port of Alaska modernization project with the attached information. He sent the information to staff, and staff and the TAC looked at it and recommend updating the tip table to what was sent over by the Port of Alaska. And that would be in here.
So
Has
page,
the table already been updated?
Yeah, in this version it has, I can,
If the staff concurred, if the TAC concurred, and they're not in the main tables, I'm not sure if we need to go through to that
It's up to you guys.
level. Because it's not really AMATS allocation, it's just getting the tables correct for their particular funding mechanisms, make sure the tip is correct.
correct.
Yeah, if the TAC and the staff agreed and the commenter was fine with it, then I think we should be fine with it.
So then we should have a motion on
The whole
the yellow, all of the yellow?
No,
Or the
we
tip.
we just approved the tip to
Okay.
release. Unless there's something else on the tip that needs to be tweaked.
well, I think we need to talk about that. Before we do that, we're still discussing. I'm playing catch up. It's hard to follow, Aaron. So I apologize. So in essence, Cindy, what you're suggesting is that, given that staff concurs with everything at this point out, that we just take.
When it comes down to table 6 through the rest of the tables.
Right.
Those don't deal with AMATS allocation. It's cleaning up and making sure
Right.
that everybody else's
And just-
funding works okay.
But by doing that, we're not saying push the entire thing yet. We're just saying those tables.
No, I'm ready to do the whole thing.
Okay, because I don't think John and I are ready to
Okay.
do the whole thing yet.
But what are we doing in regards to the yellow then? I mean, most of these were addressed. I mean, I see 176, Jenny Minor, non-motorized projects.
James Meyer, concur with staff recommendation.
So 75 and 76 relate to, some non-motorized projects were submitted they were submitted as kind of a lump group, and so they were scored as just a lump, and they didn't score very well, so the submitter resubmitted them as individual projects. They were rescored again and did not score high enough to be incorporated into the TIP.
Okay. So if we move on, then those.
There's the you just discussed. Bernard, you discussed. Street, you just discussed.
Okay, so I think we've covered them. Okay.
All right, I think I'm on the same page now. Okay, before we move further, may I ask a question of staff?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So Aaron, I think you knew this was coming. If there are projects that are in the interim MTP that AMATS policy committee members would like to add, what happens to the math? In other words, do we have to remove things that add up to the same dollar value of things we want to add?
Correct. And I'll just make a quick note. It's uneven as is because an extra $1 million was added to 2019. So that'll have to be found somewhere. There has to be some changes to O'Malley Road reconstruction because it needs to move from 19 to 20, so that may free up some funding. It depends on how much you're looking at adding.
I'm looking at $5.8 million
Which year?
now. 2019
Was it a project that we went through the public comment period?
was the project that went through the comment
I mean,
period.
the original, was it?
Was it a nominated project?
Was it a nominated, been through the original thing?
I feel like it was.
in the MTP.
It's in the MTP. I don't know if it was nominated, actually.
If it was in the interim short term, it would have been included on the list of projects when we put this out for public comment.
So, yes,
Just not in the TIP, it was just on the project list, scored
the
project.
eligible project list.
So you're trying to move one up on the needs list?
I think so.
Okay, so because it's coming from, you're advancing on the needs list, you'd probably have to put it in at the bottom, right? Or how would you put it up? Because, and the reason I'm saying this is that you want to be defensible. It was on a needs list, it ran here, and now policy-wise, you're trying to advance it up to get funding. And if you drop now one of those other ones that have already been out there down, whoever's project fell down is going to be wanting to know, and so you gotta be ready to defend that. So that's all I'm saying.
Yeah. No, I think.
And I wanna
think
make
we are.
sure that our policies and procedures allow that.
I can't think of anything off the top of my head that talks about how to handle
A brand new project.
a brand new,
And a
while
new
we're in the
tip.
middle of building. I think
It's-
it's part of the process.
Right, it's
so-
part of the process, it just needs to make sure it gets enough ability to go out and through a public process. So we're early enough that that's probably okay. If you did this on when we were doing a final approval, that wouldn't be very good.
Well,
'Cause you're
It
gonna.
is what it is,
Yeah.
and it may not fly. So for those of you that are following along at home, what I've been talking about, what we're talking about now is adding a project that wasn't, didn't qualify to make the cut the first time. And it's a project that for other reasons, policy reasons that are not part of the evaluation criteria, we think is a more important project and should be funded. I say we because I've kind of leaned over to John and I think I have his agreement on this. If you carry a copy of your interim 2035 MTP, which I know you all do, it is page 7-9, project 131. This is Mountain Air Drive to construct between Rabbit Creek Road and East 164th. Since we don't have a lot of hillsiders in here, except for maybe James, this is a critical, what's known as secondary access point for Hillside. Hillside right now has very few roads in and out of its neighborhoods and subdivisions. It creates a real concern from a life safety standpoint to the municipality. We're hitting a point, a threshold, where we can't adequately respond to emergencies always in the Hillside area without a concentrated effort to introduce secondary access points. This project in particular, Mountain Air Drive, was one that was very, very close to execution in the past couple years that ended up being shelved because of a shift in state funding. So it is a project that has gone through some initial design, evaluation, et cetera. And the number may be wrong. This would create a secondary access point to the hillside up near the Bear Valley Elementary area. So this would provide subdivisions that are on the east side of Golden View Drive, of which there are many, leading up to Rabbit Creek, or I'm sorry, up to Bear Valley, a secondary way to get out of their neighborhoods other than relying solely on Golden View Drive. And by virtue of that, makes us as a city more comfortable with the way that the hillside is developing. That's the only reason that I feel even interested in messing with this process, is that it was a project that should have happened and didn't. And this presents an opportunity for it to happen. It's in the MTP. It didn't score high enough to make the cut for this TIP, but it's not a random project I created. Well, I could create some good ones. So that's the background of why I'm considering this.
So when you do your motion, I would direct staff to figuring out the proper timing of the money and not worrying about actually putting money in it and on what year. Because when you go to a local project and you go to a federal project, it's going to be staggered out in phases out. And so saying you want 5 million, it's just setting up your expectation. So this is what you do, put it in and say, direct staff to identify the correct funding year and schedule within the federal program. And then just try to get it as quickly as possible.
Okay.
Kind of thing.
Especially they have to do longer studies.
Yeah.
It's been very well studied. It was.
Yeah, but you're still gonna have to go through the federal process, so.
Yeah, I think that has to happen in the MTP though. Okay, let's turn that into an actual motion then.
Sorry, just a quick question from me. So this is outside the ARTSA bonding. So I know in the past that's become an issue, so I just want to make sure everyone's aware of that. So when we get to this, that it is not an issue trying to get the match for it, because this will more than likely not be a state-matched project.
And why is that?
I can't imagine that DOT is going to be okay matching this project.
Why not? It meets community goals in a big way.
I would be surprised if DOT wanted to provide its match for.
Was the original
project.
was the original legislative grant a DOT grant, or was that just a state grant?
I'm not sure about it. I'd have to do some investigation.
First I've heard.
But that's the only thing I warn you about from experience. They would look at, they're pretty limited on their match right now. It's constantly shrinking, and they have a lot of items to constantly cover. So this would have to be weighed compared to everything else.
They don't do so good, little tiny roads.
We've had to delay some of our actual project funding in our program because no match available.
What's the match? Percent?
Roughly 10%.
9.03%. So in this case, it'd be about $1 million to 1.5, depending on the total cost of the project.
So you could put a placeholder in and then find your match if it's a bond, and then you could get then you could probably have a better chance of getting it, and then fund it later. So.
Let's get it in. Yeah, I'd be game for that. I think we'll go beat the bushes for the match.
Okay.
So that definitely you don't want to put money in, you just direct staff to, what you want to do is you want to get your placeholder in.
Yeah.
Because like I said before, it's much easier in our policies to add money to an existing project or moving the phases than it is to try to put a brand new project into a TIP after you've approved it.
Okay.
It's placeholder.
I was just going to reference Aaron on a placeholder with illustrative or zero funding and then adding funding. New policies at DOT would require that to probably be a major amendment. And you're talking, what's the timeline for a major amendment?
6 months or so. So if you were to put money in, I'd recommend you not do it in 2019 if you're looking at making it illustrative and then try and move it in. There won't be enough time to do a major amendment to the TIP and still have 2019 fiscal year active. So I'd recommend 2020 or later.
You can always move it out.
And then you can mail it.
Okay. So as I understand it then, what you're saying is a little bit different from what Cindy said initially. You're saying if you're going to put money in it, put it in an out year, not 2019, 2020.
I was gonna say nothing and just let
Well, that's what you
direct
said,
staff. Yeah,
but-
right.
Well, this
I'm
was
hearing-
in response to Todd's, if you make it
Even if you
illustrative.
put it in there as a zero, when you go to fund it, it's gonna need a major amendment with our new rules.
Right,
So-
right. No, my original thing was, if you put a project in, direct staff to add the money in for at the right places and right phasing to meet the federal requirements, that we would put any, not zeros, but just direct staff to put the monies in the right spot once they go figure it out. So that we're not trying to guess around and then having to do an amendment later. We're saying, put a project in, put the funding in the right year and the right timing, we'll let staff do that and then let it go. So once they do it and then update it and as it goes along the path. That's what I was recommending.
Okay.
So that you can hash out all these little details without having to come back and do an amendment.
Does the tip have an illustrative section? That's the MPP does, but the tip doesn't.
I wasn't talking illustrative. It's like
As
between.
I mentioned it, I just said if you put
Oh.
a zero or an illustrative or something in there.
It can have illustrative either for funding or timing of the project. There's two different type of illustratives out there. So it can, we've used it before in the past in the tip. But it's raised some problems about how do you get the project in after it's shown as illustrative, and it's been difficult.
Table 2. Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah, the roadways, yes. Okay. I may need help with the wording on this one. All right, then I would like to make a motion to, yes, sir?
Public comment.
Oh, yeah, sorry,
Sorry.
thank you.
I guess do you do the motion first, then public comment?
Yeah, we don't have a motion.
Well, right, because there's nothing.
Public comment
Yeah,
first,
so-
right?
Well, it
There's
depends
not
on what we're
really-
doing. We're getting ready to
Yeah,
advance
we'll
the
do
whole
public comments
thing, and so there'd be public comment first, I guess.
Yes. Following my script, that would be correct. Thank you, Sid. Are there any comments from the public on the insertion of a new project named Mountain Drive? Mountain Air Drive. Thank you. Seeing none, what is the will of the committee?
Are you gonna?
Yeah, do I need to make my motion?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So I move to insert a new project into Table 2. I assume this will be RD0014, or maybe you'll renumber that. The project name shall be Mountain Air Drive Rabbit Creek Road to East 164th Avenue. Should I add a sentence or two about description?
Just use a description in the interim MTP.
The description, which I will recite, comes from the 2035 interim MTP, and it reads, extend Mountain Air Drive from Rabbit Creek Road to East 164th Avenue, period. Recommend separated pathway, period. Purpose, circulation, access, and safety, period. I think that's enough right there. Additionally, we would like to direct staff to plug in appropriate funding at a later date. That's, I think, all.
I'll second that.
Thanks, Pete.
All those in favor?
Oh, we have discussion. Is there any
Oh, sorry,
discussion first?
I'm going ahead. So now we have a motion, so any comments from the committee?
It's a darn good idea, and I am totally embarrassed I did not do it.
Who seconded the motion?
Pete Peterson.
Thank you.
Right.
And this has been needed for a long time. I used to live in South Anchorage, and so, yeah.
Any additional comments from the committee?
Then just call for vote.
Right. Thank you. All those in favor of adding Mountain Air Drive?
Aye.
Motion carries. Staff will work on adding this and plugging funding.
Move to release the 2019-2022 public hearing draft of the TIP as amended to the Anchorage Assembly for review and comment.
Second.
All those in favor?
Bert?
Do public comment.
Public comment?
That's twice in a row. Public comment for the motion that we have for approving the tip.
I'll go ahead and take my, my minutes at this point because I was not able to speak to the issue of traffic calming on ACINL earlier. And I would still urge you to consider financing this effort. The most recent example we have of a complete street being studied and constructed in Anchorage is the Spenard Road project. We didn't have a complete street policy in effect for that, nor did we have the Spenard Road corridor plan complete. So I think there's some, we need to cut to the chase here and provide the urban core of Anchorage with some protection and transportation expenditures and attention and help to allow us to grow as an urban core without getting hammered. Our children can't cross the streets safely. The neighbors are disturbed by the noise, and it's simply not safe to have high-speed arterials through neighborhoods. I did create a chart that some of you folks have seen. DOT has been very helpful in collecting speed data on these streets inside the neighborhood on L Street outbound for an 8-hour collection period. Most cars were doing 10 miles an hour over the posted limit when you've got homes on both sides of the street. So it posted at 30, and the cars were running 43 to 45 miles an hour at the median. The highest speed in an 8-hour registered was over 64 miles an hour with, again, homes on both sides. You go down to L Street at the Lagoon, Minnesota at the Lagoon, it's posted at 45. The average was 55 to 59. With 29 vehicles doing over 90 miles an hour. That's on a 24-hour survey, 29 over 90. So perhaps you folks could tell us what we need to do to get relief from excessive speeds in our neighborhood.
I'm sorry, you're asking. From a DOT's perspective, we have no enforcement mechanism, but that's what we would rely upon as enforcement.
Sir, I think we all recognize that the design of the road limits and it affects the speed much more than the expense of police cars.
Road designs, road characteristics are designed based on the demand of traffic movement. Roads are designed based on speeds, not the other way around. We don't design roads to try and limit the speed.
I'll grant you that. I will grant you that. And so expect my phone calls, folks. We'll be in touch.
Can you state your name for the record, please?
Cheryl Richardson.
Thank you.
All right. What is the will of the committee?
Aye.
I'm sorry, what's the motion? We've already had a motion.
I made a motion.
That was just public comment.
Yeah.
Public comment after the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We got 3 minutes.
Me.
2 minutes.
Yeah.
Who seconded the motion?
I can't remember if I did or Pete did.
Cindy's motion, Mr. Shudish second.
Thank you.
Alrighty.
All right, are there any other action items?
No, they're not.
Moving on to agenda item 6A, Metropolitan Transportation. We just did that.
Update.
Nope. update. Craig is not here, so Aaron will be representing.
Really quickly,
Very
so the MTP team has had all the modeling finished. It's going to start working on the fiscal constraint analysis. Hopefully, we're going to send out a doodle poll for the TAC and the policy committee to attend a work session in November. We're probably looking at the week of the 13th, sometime the 13th, 14th, or 15th. And that's where we sit down and look at all the assumptions and kind of making a finalization of those before they're brought forward for approval in December. And then December, January timeframe, we'll start looking at the actual modeling results and working on the final transportation network for the MTP. So the next 3 or 4 months are going to be very busy. So look forward to that, I hope.
You can see maps and colors and all sorts.
It'll be exciting. It's my favorite. I love the financial stuff, so I'm very excited for it. That's it.
Are there any questions or comments by the committee? Or the 2040? No. Any comments from the public on the 2040 Metropolitan Transportation Plan update? Yes.
I'd sure like to hear how it turned out when you folks looked at the assigning 5% to off-vehicle travel. What happened to the model and the consequences to the level of demand in Anchorage for continued roadway construction?
I would like to request that we wait until we actually start looking at the model results during the work sessions for that. So then it'll be open for the public to be able to provide comment and see what happened.
Are you, so when you check with folks so that they can come to a work session and attend, are you letting the public know about the work sessions also?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
All right. The floor is now open for comments from the committee. Mr. Peterson.
Nothing, thanks.
Mr. Wellington.
Nothing.
Mr. Schutte.
No, sir.
All right. Thank you all for participating. This meeting is adjourned at 4:01.
And then let you guys figure out how.